Okay, we're looking at a review here of given a table of values, making a graph, and then writing an equation of a line. So one quick review here for rate of change. Rate of change from an equation is y equals mx plus b, and that's the m value. So our rate of change is our m value. M is slope, which is how steep our line is. That is also rise over run when we're looking at a graph, and when we're looking at a table, we talk about it as change in y over change in x. All of those things mean the same thing. And then as we get to initial value, and I'm looking at the equation y equals mx plus b, we're going to focus on that b value for initial value. And that means y-intercept, which is where the line crosses the y-axis. In a table, that is our 0 row, and it's the point 0b in that table and also on our graph. So this time, if we're given a table of values and we want to make a graph, this is really pretty slick for us because we know that when we plot a point on a graph, we're plotting the point x comma y. And so when I look at a table of values and it gives me x's and y's across from each other, it's just giving me a series of points that are on my graph. So all I need to do is take from my table of values right here, I've made the points, now I just need to plot these points on my graph, and I am going to know where my graph is going to head. So I'm at -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm at the point 0, 7. And notice how all of my points, they're going to end up being in this straight line. And I can go ahead and then connect the dots here. And I have graphs. So when I'm given a table of values, they're actually requiring us to do not hardly any work in order to be able to graph it because they've already given me my collection of x and y values. I just have to plot them as points and sketch my line. So for this example, go ahead and sketch your graph from your table, and when you're ready to see the answer, you can go ahead and hit play. So I'm going to go over here, 1, 2, 3, and then down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plot my first point, 0, -3, and 3 down here, -2. Notice how my points are collecting here in a straight line, and then I'm at the point 9, 0. And again, even though that one is a little bit further away, notice how it's still in that straight line. And when I make my line here, we have gone from a table of values and we have made a graph. Okay, this time we're looking at a table of values and we want to write an equation. So remember that our equation is y equals mx plus b, and we know that m is going to be our change in y over our change in x, and we can gather this information right from our table, and we know that b is going to be our 0 row. So we need to find these two pieces of information from our table so that we can go ahead and write our equation. Well, the 0 row piece, that's nice and easy for us. 0 row is where x is 0 and our y value is going to be our b value then. So 7 in this case gives me my b value or my initial value. And then I can look at how I get from one y value to the next, and that would be by adding 2. And over here, how I get from one x value to the next is by adding 1. And so I come over here for my change in y over my change in x. That's 2 over 1. And it looks like I have enough information here to be able to write my equation. Okay. So go ahead, try this one on your own. See if you can write the equation of the line. Go ahead and hit pause, and then when you're ready for your answer, go ahead and hit play. So for my equation y equals mx plus b, I'm looking for my change in y over my change in x. I'm also looking for my b value, which is going to be from my 0 row. So the first thing I notice here is my 0 row, which is -3. For my change in y over my change in x, this time I'm adding 2, and it doesn't matter which values here I use on my graph because I'm going to be able to simplify this down and we will end up with the same thing at the end. 2 over 6 simplifies down to 1 over 3. And so when I write my equation here, I should have y equals 1 over 3x plus negative 3, or you could just have y equals 1 over 3x minus 3. And either way, you're going to be just fine. So if we want to look here one more time at our relationships, okay, for our graph, and I should have this graph already up here, but I don't, so we'll get our points back up here and our line. Okay, so when I am given a table of values and I see my 0 row here, I know that my 0 row is a 7, and that's represented as my b value right here, and it's represented as my y-intercept right here. That is my 7, or my y-intercept, my initial value. So they're all related. When I'm given a piece of information, it translates to the equation and to the graph. Same goes for when I look at my change in y over my change in x, okay? So my change in y over my change in x, that's the same as my m value. And when I look at my graph, that's the same as my rise over my run. So all of these three pieces, the table, the graph, and the equation, are related, and they tell us the same information.